Hi, I'm Introvaid. It's time for another book review today. But before I pick up the title and show it to you, let me share a tidbit with you. One of my favorite things is to just go to the bookstore and pick up a random title written by an author I do not know anything about. I browse the book, look at the blurb section, read the reviews about it, and then end up picking some books. And I have ended up reading some beautiful and very interesting books which have been very unusual. The problem these days is that everybody talks about only those 4 or 5 books, that are, shall I say, trending. And those are the books that you will see being reviewed on every other channel. So that way I don't want to have these kind of niche wherein I buy and read only the bestsellers and then review them. So you'll often see some very new and different kind of books reviewed on my channel on varied topics, of course. So the book I have chosen today is also one of those books, that I chanced upon in a bookstore, and I found the title so intriguing that I ended up buying it. So it is Swallowing Grandma by Kate Long. So as you can see, I found the title so interesting. I thought, kya hoga isme? I hope it's nothing to do with dragons and all, no science fiction, but it wasn't like that. This book explores relationships at length. Primarily it is between Catherine, the granddaughter, she's just around 18 or so, and the grandmother, Paul. So Paul is the one who has brought Catherine up because she lost her father even before she was born, and her mother left her behind in her grandma's house as a baby. Why she did so and all, it's not been said in so many words, but then we can figure it out as the tale unfolds. So Catherine ends up becoming the caregiver for Paul, who looks after Pollyanna, that's her full name, in the absence of anyone else around in their lives, because Pollyanna's husband also leaves along with Catherine's mother. So it's not that they had an affair or something, it's just that they were, helping each other. But that is the story that Paul had built up for Catherine. So she's brought up in a house where she gets to meet only old people. It's a small village, everybody knows everybody kind of scenario. And she accepts her fate more or less as a caregiver for a major part of her life for Paul. But then eventually, destiny has other plans for her. As she grows restless into her surroundings with those people she's surrounded with, destiny unfolds in very pleasant ways for her. Some well-wishers help her get into Oxford, encourage her to go in the right direction, and she ends up there. In between, she meets somebody who claims to be her cousin. Who is he? That is a mystery for you all to figure out when you read the book, if you do so. But then he's the one who kindles something in her heart. So much for the storyline, but then the book is all about the relationships between people. For example, between Paul and Catherine, wherein Catherine plays the caregiver, which is completely opposite to what you would expect from a teenager. Normally it's the other way around. But then she's the one taking care of the grandmother, and grandmother is not at all grateful for all the help that Catherine provides. Rather, she is a very dominating sort of a person who doesn't let Catherine have her freedom, enjoy her life, and makes sure she's tied to the grindstone. Another interesting thing is how our stories change, depending upon who is telling that story. Everybody has so many versions of the same story, and it is so interesting to read so many perspectives on the same story of different characters in any book. Same is the case in this book. Paul has her own version of what happened with her parents and how did she end up living with her grandmother. Whereas this cousin who comes into Catherine's life later on in the book, that is Callum, has his own version of what had happened. And then towards the end, there is a happy ending, which I think again the readers should discover on their own. So many people have called this book funny, but I do not find anything funny wherein this girl who is fat, who is unpopular, who gets to wear only hand-me-downs, very unfashionable clothes, and that is why she's not accepted in any of the popular cliques at her school. She undergoes a lot of mental and social anxiety and stress. So it's not funny. So much so that she cultivates this bulimia by reading more about it and how to go about it and how to get rid of the smells afterwards, which is sad. She doesn't have any person who is of her own age who can advise her, or anybody who genuinely cares about what she's going through, or somebody who was keen to help her on how to overcome so much of anxiety that she faced during her childhood and then later on in her teenage years. So it's a book where Catherine comes of age, learns to deal with her problems. One more interesting thing I would like to point out is that sometimes, we take destiny for granted because that's the easy way out, right? If we accept that, this is fate, this is destiny, this is bound to happen, I'm cut out for only this or that, then obviously things are easy in the sense that we don't have to make extra efforts to fight or, carve out a future for our own selves, because that takes a lot of effort and grit and determination. But then once you show the universe that, you mean to change things around, I think help comes to you in some form or the other, and you end up doing something with your life. Obviously, like I said, it requires a lot of grit and determination, efforts, persistence in the right direction, but yes, it's much better scenario than accepting your destiny the way it is. It all depends on us, however, whether we want to play the victims of circumstances or we want to be the creators or masters of our own destinies. So there are a lot of points to think about, a lot of interesting perspectives here in the book. A varied study of characters. What is it that drives people to do certain things, think a certain way? And I always feel fiction is also not something that is completely useless, because that is, a writer's perspective. She must have or he must have studied somebody or the other, and the characters are generally caricatures of somebody they might have seen or observed in their own lives. So you learn about the psychology of various kinds of people also. See, everything can't be learned from books of psychology only, and everybody might not be able to understand their terminology and whatnot. So, but then this is one way of figuring people out and understanding what makes them tick. So I hope I've inspired you to read this book, because it's a fun read through and through. You always want to know what happens next. The way of writing is also very simple. There are some contemporary references to artists and albums and songs, but then you can always ignore it and move on. I've also written a book review in the form of a blog post on my blog. I'll leave the link in the description box, so make sure you check it out, like and follow that as well. Please subscribe to my channel. Like, share and subscribe is the mantra. So happy reading. I hope I've encouraged you to read more in future. I hope you enjoyed the review. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care and catch you soon.